This is the Anything But Banker to Broker podcast. We're going to be talking to some of the industry's best and brightest about the unique pathways they took before stepping into broking and how it set them up for success. Thanks for listening. Hi everybody, today's guest, we got Ishac on here. So he is he's an ex-exercise physiologist. We had a bit of a chat beforehand on what the difference between a physiotherapist and an exercise physiologist is, because I thought they were the same. Mate, good to have you on. How are you getting on?
Yeah, good, mate. Thanks for having me on. Been excited to chat. Been well, keeping busy, working with a lot of people, a lot more health professionals coming through as well, which we'll get into.
100%, man. Now, before we talk anything about you, what was it like growing up? What were your parents doing at home? What were you exposed to?
Yeah, look, growing up, I'm one of three boys. I'm the oldest, so I was the first one off the ranks. I guess a normal working class household. Mum's always sort of run her own businesses. So she's sort of got her own art business, and now she's also got a little cafe as well. Dad, he's a trader. He's a panel beater by trade, but he's had the odd job here and there. So they've always worked, worked well, worked hard, bought a couple of properties, just everyday hardworking people. I've always been sort of the black sheep of the family. Like I've always been sort of competitive for myself in the sense that I didn't really need my parents on my back for like school. Growing up, I've had a lot of sports and I always wanted to win, do well. So I was always just self-motivated. I was a very competitive person. I still am. So they just, supported me where they needed to, allowed me to do what I wanted to do. Obviously, it took me to training for whatever sport, took me to school, uni, whatever it is. And yeah, just a regular supportive household. Every household has their interesting moments, as we all do. No one's perfect, but I'm very blessed that I had a very good.
Yeah, I think they have middle child syndrome and you have, top child syndrome, first child syndrome. I think I suffer from that as well, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. What about your younger brothers? What did they end up going and doing?
So my middle brother, the one below me, so about 2.5 years difference. He's done a few things. He's always sort of been in sales. I think he worked at the casino on the sea for a bit, working with like the VIPs, and now he works for like an online sort of betting company, sort of looking after clients, things like that. So kind of similar to what we do in a sense, like looking after. It's sort of a bit of a sales role. My younger brother, he helps out the family business at a local coffee shop as well, and he's also looking at doing some other stuff on the side, like a teacher's aide and things like that. So he's sort of exploring what direction he wants to go.
Yeah, good on you, mate.
Yeah.
Must have been a bit of a hectic one with three boys growing up. Like, what's the age difference? So it was 2 between you and the middle, and then what's the difference between middle and youngest?
Between me and my next brother, about 2.5, and then me and my youngest brother, I think it's about 5 or 6 years. So there's 2.5 between them. So I'd say 5, yeah, probably about 5 years, I think, something like that.
Yeah, nice, man. How old are you now?
31.
31, okay, yeah.
Yeah, 31.
Still all young guys, mate. Still all young guys, lots of give.
Yeah, I mean, depends what side of the bed I wake up on, but yeah, try to stay young. Yeah, but look, growing up, I mean, 3 boys, as you could imagine, and we brawled and wrestled and did what we did. But yeah, just as we've grown up, now we're in a sort of our careers and, maturing a little bit. So yeah, I was always sort of like protective in a way, like kind of hard on my brothers as well when they kind of did the wrong thing. I was like, don't do that. It's stupid. It's not good for your health, not good for this, whatever it is, but sometimes you got to leave it up to mum and dad to kind of do that job.
So you was a very active kid, right, in school, playing a lot of sports and stuff. But what was school like from the more learning perspective?
Oh, look, I was always, as I said, I've always put pressure on myself. So I've always wanted to do well. So, I wasn't like an excessively, bright student, 4 unit maths or anything like that. But, I did okay. I was an average, maybe slightly above average student in some areas, especially like on the sporting side of things. But, like maths, English, I passed and, well, I did a bit better than pass most of the time. But yeah, I was basically a really high level, not high level, but I was an average student. School was good, just loved hanging out with my mates in sport. I played a bit of everything, any sport at school often, soccer or football, as they call it here in England, cricket as well. And even on the weekends, played a bit of that, and then got into 10, got more into more sort of boxing, martial arts, things like that. So that's what I haven't been back into it for a while because of work, but that's what I've been doing at the moment.
Yeah, and when did you start your first job? Your first job wasn't in fitness, was it? You were obviously just doing something.
No, my first proper job, I would say, was in retail, actually. I worked at Cotton On, actually. I think as soon as I was legally old enough to get a job, I just got a job. I mean, before that, I did the odd thing here and there, with a friend or a family member, maybe a little cash job on the side, but for a proper job, yeah, in retail. So essentially, sales from the get go. I'm working casually. So I worked at Cotton On for many, many years. And then when I started my studies, I think it was just when I started my studies, I got a job at a gym in sales as well, like 7 memberships. And then during my studies as an exercise physiologist, when I got to the point where I could technically be accredited to become like a personal trainer, because obviously an exercise physiology degree is obviously above a personal trainer qualification. So at some point of the degree, I've covered everything that would be covered in the Cert 4 of a fitness. So when I got that, while I was selling memberships at the gym, I also started doing like group classes as well. And then from there, started taking on, private PT clients, built up from there. And then once I got accredited as an exercise physiologist after I did my master's, then obviously I took on more work on that side of things. So yeah, so basically always started in sales, customer service sales, and then transitioned slowly into the health and fitness industry from there.
You asked my next question. You answered my next question, sorry, which was, what's the pathway from an education perspective? So Cert 4 is what you need to be an exercise physiologist, or to at least get accredited and start as a junior in it. Is that right?
So no, sorry. So Cert 4 is what you need to be a personal trainer.
Yes, gotcha.
To be an exercise physiologist, you need a university degree. So I went to university. I did a 3-year bachelor's in exercise and sports science. And then I did a year and a half of my master's in exercise physiology. But in the bachelor's degree, I think it's after like a year and a half, 2 years, the subjects that we cover pretty much covers everything in a Cert 4 to be a PT. So just before I finished my bachelor's, I was technically qualified enough to do personal training. I could get accredited to do one-on-one work with clients as a personal trainer. And then once I did my master's, so all in all, it was 4.5 years. Once I finished my master's, then I was an accredited exercise physiologist, and I could work in the clinical space. Because as a PT, a personal trainer, generally, you can't really work with people who have severe conditions. You may be able to, but there's only so much you can do and that you're covered for. As an exercise physiologist, we're qualified and experienced and knowledgeable in working with people with a range of injuries and conditions. So once I got that, I started working with more kind of severe um, cases, people who were in wheelchairs with neurological conditions, people who've injured themselves at work, athletes who pulled their hamstring and want to get back on a footy field, a bit of a mix.
Yeah. So you rode a bit back to back, straight through from bloody bachelor's, straight through to master's?
Yep, straight from high
Good on
school,
you,
finished
mate.
high school 2012, graduated, and then 4.5 years of uni straight after that.
Yeah, your parents must have been proud, mate. I tried giving that a go and I was like, I need some kind of rest in between. Good on you, mate. Like, so you knew from 18 what you wanted to do at the end of that master's, or did it evolve as you were going through?
Well, I was, like I said, I've always been involved with sport and activity. And I knew I wanted to do something in the health space. At first, I didn't actually know what exercise physiology was. I was like, I'm going to be a physiotherapist. And then when I started my bachelor's, that's when I got introduced to exercise physiology. And I was like, yeah, this is more my side of things, the more functional side, working with people to go through exercises. I think that's more me. So then that's how I ventured off into exercise physiology from understanding it from my bachelor's degree.
Yeah, it's funny. The gym that I go to, every other week or every 2 Fridays, a girl comes in and she brings, I think they're patients, right? She's not a PT. She must be an exercise physiologist because she's going around and giving a lot more of like a service, you want to say, like she's ticking stuff off, she's monitoring things. Like, is that similar to what you would have been doing?
Yeah. You'll know, especially now that because as exercise physiologists, we need equipment generally, right? A physio can get away with, coming to your house and getting a bed to do some treatment on it. Yes, they do a little bit of exercise, but for us, we need access to equipment. So that's why you'll see a lot of exercise physiologists will use local gyms or facilities like a health center that has a pool for hydrotherapy as well. So yeah, I did a lot of that. Gyms, houses, parks, pools, everything, clinics.
Thank you, mate. And when did you have your eye on finance and like notice that you wanted to start making that transition?
So I've always been somewhat entrepreneurial. I've always been curious. Even when I was going through, sort of uni or maybe just before uni, I was always interested in business, in stocks. And then e-commerce started to come up during those years from when I went from high school to uni. That's sort of when e-commerce started to kind of pop up. And I had a few friends that were doing it, and I was like, always thinking of other ways. I was like, always, how can I make money and I've always wanted to work for myself. So I dabbled in e-commerce a bit as well. I had a coffee trailer business with a friend. Like I've done a bit of everything, right? And all of them involve sales, right? Sales and relationships. So this is a constant variable. And then a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I was speaking to a friend who is a broker. And he was telling me about it. He's like, man, you'd be a really good broker. I was like, you're okay? He's like, yeah, he was kind of explaining it to me. Anyway, I didn't think much of it. And then I got to the point where I was burnt out a little bit as an exercise physiologist. I had to make a decision because I was contracting. I was like, okay, well, I got married, bought a property. I was like, okay, I need to think long term here, especially when I have a family. If I don't, at the position I'm in now, if I don't see a client and work, I don't get paid. Like when I went away for a holiday, I wasn't seeing clients, I wasn't getting paid, right? Yes, I had the flexibility of my own schedule, but then it's a balance. Stability for flexibility. So I kind of fell into it. The gentleman who I work alongside, whose office I'm in, we connected through. So his daughters go to my wife's dance school. We went out for dinner one night, started talking. I just had it 2 years ago. Because mate, you'd be a very good broker. I said, actually, it's funny. Someone else told me that. Because mate, come by the office. I'll show you, how it works, and you can just decide. You can kind of ease into it. You don't have to kind of leave what you're doing completely. And at that time, I was contemplating real estate for a bit because I was going around to speak to all these real estate agents, and I was like, I was sort of like shocked that some of them, their communication skills wasn't as good as I thought, So I was like, I could probably do this. So it was like real estate, brokering. Anyway, long story short, came by the office and he ran me through and was like, you know what have I got to lose? So here I am.
Thank you, mate. So there was a bit of a fork, right? If you were to stay on the pathway doing what you were doing and what you'd studied for, what would the future have looked like? And would it have been possible for you to achieve that? You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. So I had to make a decision. If I was going to stay in the industry as an exercise physiologist, for it to make sense from a financial standpoint and going and starting a family in the future, I needed to have a business that ran itself. And I was like, well, either I'm going to open up my own clinic and invest a lot of money into that, or I'm going to do something else. And to be honest, I just didn't have that drive to do that. And I was like, I'm not going to do it because it's what has to be done. It didn't make sense. I didn't have the ambition to do that. And I was like, it would be a disservice to myself and a disservice to my clients if I was doing something that I didn't really want to do. So that's why I kind of started to kind of look for other opportunities. And, I'm a big believer in things happen for a reason, and, you meet certain people for a reason. And obviously, I got introduced to people at the right times, I guess. And yeah, it just made sense to transition. And the thing is, the skills as an exercise physiologist transition well into brokering because it's a relationship-based business. And as an exercise physiologist, I was dealing with people who had conditions, and they would be a lot of emotionally vulnerable, and they'd open up to you. Sometimes I almost feel like I was a psychologist, And so you're dealing with people's emotions. I feel like people are very sensitive about their health and their finances. So it kind of, the transition there was smooth. It was obviously just learning all the technical side and all the compliance and all that. But like every industry's got it. But once you got that down packed, it's just how can you make sure that you're looking after your clients and delivering a great service.
What you was doing teaches you to be an empathetic person, right? And to be a salesperson, which, let's be honest, that's what we both are, right? We solve people's problems, but it's a sales business. We catch, we eat, we move on, or we keep, we work with the people forever, right? But to be a good salesperson, you need to be empathetic, because you need to understand if what you're actually selling to somebody or trying to solve for them is actually what they really need. You know what I mean? So it's like, people come through to you diagnosed, well, you're doing the diagnosing now. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's funny you say that. I was like, I'm always creating like a correlation between finance and health, and there's more similarities than you think, because in the health space, someone diagnoses your health, in the finance space, so it's somewhat diagnosed as your financial position. You have a health check, you have a financial health check. Both require assessments, both require a plan, both require strategy, but all in all, both require empathy and patience and understanding. For me, sales, a lot of people, there's a big stigma on the word sales. They really think sales and sleazy car salesman, but I feel like no matter what industry you're in, especially in a service-based industry, you're always selling yourself, right? Whether you're an exercise physiologist, a broker, a plumber, you're selling yourself. So the kind of person you are, I'm a big believer in sell yourself and people will buy what you do. That's how I look at it. So I try to just be as authentic and real as I can be. I try not to fake anything. A lot of people in a lot of industries like to flaunt certain things, which is fine. Like, everyone's different and people should be proud of their achievements. I'm a very, very simple guy. I drive a Mazda. On the weekends, I sit at home with my wife, watching Netflix, just very basic stuff. So yeah, that's me.
I don't think that's basic. I think that's the stuff that makes life worth living, mate.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the holidays that you work for, of course. But no,
Exactly.
like, well, that's it, right? Like what you were saying about sales there is bang on. Like people do always think of it as a bad word. And, when I'd speak to people, they'd say, oh, I don't want to get into a sales role. I'm really scared of it. And it's like, come on, like sales is not picking up the phone and cold calling people that you know nothing about and going, hi, is this Aaron? Like, no, it's about speaking to people and engaging with people that you already know about. You know what I mean? And like what you said there, being genuine. Realistically, in what you do, there's a person for you and there's a person who you're going to resonate with. And for that very same reason, there's loads of people you're not going to resonate with. And that is okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a difference in sales, I think, between trying to flog off a product or a service that people don't really want, as opposed to being in an industry where you're not really selling your service because your service, people need your service. It's just about putting yourself in front of the right people. Brokering, finance, people always need loans. So I don't necessarily have to go out there and push people to get a loan. It's just about positioning myself in front of the right people so that when they are ready, hopefully they will reach out to me. And, at the end of the day, with social media, we have to give as much as we can, give as much value. Like when I connect with allied health professionals on LinkedIn, I always send a voice message. I just tell them, look, I'm just looking to build my network and just get as much content out as possible. And a lot of people say, oh, thank you. I don't need your services right now, but I'll stay in touch with your content. I already had a broker, and that's fine. Like I'm not expecting everyone who I connect with to come to me, and I'm also not expecting anyone to leave their broker if they have one to come to me. Out of 100 people I reach out to, maybe half of them might over time, not straight away. So I think it's just about positioning yourself, and you don't really have to sell because your product is required and there's a need for it. It's just about positioning yourself as the right person for your clients.
And discovering if discovering if they need it right now. You know what I mean? Probably same as you say no to people because when you do a discovery, you're like, hang on a minute. And like for me, it's like, hang on a minute. You don't need a broker right now. Why would you need to bring a broker into the business when, you don't have the support for him or there's not lead flow to get him in the door? Why don't you focus on marketing and getting yourself out there, whatever it might be? So how long have you been a broker now? And what was the pathway? Did you go as a comms? Did you go as starting your own business? Like what was the journey?
So I've been a bit over 2 years now, in the space, and obviously I did my qualifications, and then as part of it, you're required to have a mentor for at least the first 2 years, which is who brought me into it. So, and we still work alongside each other. But the way it was is he basically said to me from the get go, register your own company, start your own business. Obviously, mentor you, guide you, help you wherever you need. But you're better off starting your own thing and building your own thing, essentially. Building your own client base. Right. You're not working for me, you're working with me together. And now there's two other brokers. The three of us, basically, we all have our own separate companies, but we all just started Get My Lending, which is our kind of joint venture. So yeah, so obviously we rely on each other. I still ask the boys questions. Hey, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts on this? And we bounce ideas off each other. And we just thought, you know what? We're already working together. And then we were looking at marketing to bring in leads. And we're like, instead of one of us spending, 4 or 5 grand a month or whatever it is on marketing, why don't we just, join resources and spread the costs and be resourceful? Yeah. So that's how it's been basically. Did my qualifications, got started up, and once I was officially registered and did all my accreditations with all my lenders and things like that, it was just about finding clients. And I was like, shit, where am I going to get work from? And everyone would say, well, your phone is where your first business will come from, essentially friends and family. But it's funny because I actually feel more comfortable talking to random people and approaching random people than I do about family, like going after a family member saying, let me do your home loan or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to mix business with pleasure. But look, I've had a few family members who have supported me and come to me for certain loans. Actually, one of my first loans out the gate was from my brother-in-law, and it was the most complicated. It was like 3 loans. One of them was an SMSF loan. There's a refinance. There was a lot happening, right? And self-employed. It was just, so luckily I had support. Like if I didn't have the support I had, I don't know what I would have done. Yeah, I got pretty much shoved into the deep end from the get-go. And I'm like, if I can do this, I can probably do any kind of deal.
If you've seen me smiling a lot there, mate, I want to say it was a great story. It wasn't that great. My daughter come through the door, see me smiling and laughing. My daughter come through the door. She had a brush in her hand and she was just walking up to me, and I was like, "Oh shit! I hope I hope she doesn't get onto the camera." I'm like,
That's okay. She can join.
um, mate. So, and it's good, and I think that's why it's good that you've gone and worked alongside someone who cares about you, because they've not sucked you into the industry in a predatory way, which unfortunately you do see a lot of people doing. Like he said to you, mate, you could come and work under my business as a contractor, but that's not going to do what's best for you. Get yourself set up as a company. I'll just be your mentor. I'll tick off on everything. I'll be there for you, but but it allows you to build the future 100% for you, right?
100%. Yeah, which is good. I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed to have a good support network. Like we're pretty much a family here. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna have a barbecue. So like we're very laid back. We get work done, but we're family people in the day. And I'm very lucky to have other people in the industry. Like Joseph as well. He's a good friend of mine, and he's very generous with his tips for me. Like any questions I have, he'll would more than happy to share his experience. And I've got a couple other mates in the industry who I'll call every now and then just to say, hey, how things are going. We'll share ideas and how would you go about this kind of deal, and how do you go about this. And it's good to have people. I think it's so important to have people around you. Even for it, back in as an exercise physiologist, one of the big things as part of sort of a health treatment plan is social support, which is with anything in life. To have a good, strong social support network, I think is very, very critical to your success in anything in life.
Yeah, and you have to be that for people as well, right? Like, I'll have brokers that I place people into, and I say to them, if you have a problem with this person that I place, of course you call me. But I say, if you have a problem with somebody who's already in your business, give me a ring, mate. Like, I'm here because I've worked with this stuff and I understand it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you have to show up for people and give out, and give out, and give out, because you get it back, man. Like, you do. And it's a beautiful thing when you do get it back from people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very good. It can be, you know what? It can be very lonely at times, very stressful. It's funny because it's like, you get into working for yourself for freedom and flexibility, but then you end up working more, especially at the beginning, like sometimes you're like, oh, should I just go get a 9 to 5? It just, because you're probably the same. I mean, I don't know about you, but I never switch off. It's very, very hard to switch off. Like, it's probably a bad habit, which I need to get out of, but me switching off is like, I've been going for a lot of walks recently. If I can get to a training session, that's me. But even if I'm at the gym, I'm thinking about work or I'm thinking about a deal. So I need to do something that really distracts me. So usually if I go do a boxing session or something intense or run, I won't think. I'll aimlessly scroll through YouTube. Bloody terrible habit, just to switch off. But it's very hard to switch off when people are depending on you. Did I do this right? Like, did I stuff something up? And it's just you just second guessing yourself.
I have 2 showers a day, right? Because I usually exercise in the evening. After my morning one, I'll put my towel on and I'll get straight in front of the computer. After my evening one, I'll put my towel around me and get straight in front of the computer. Every day, you know what I mean? And yeah, mate, like, I've redone my training. I used to do Thai boxing, Muay Thai. And when I just sit and do slow strength training and just weights in the gym, after the set, I always just sit looking at my phone. Now I have to, like, I've started doing like each minute on the minute and as many reps as possible. You know what I mean? Because it's, for me, my heart needs to be pumping. I need to be literally like, the blood needs to be running around me for me to switch off. You know what I mean? And that's why I love doing long runs as well, because I just put my headphones in, phone goes in my back pocket or the bag, and I just don't look at it. Like,
Yeah, long runs or swims. Usually when it's warm, I usually go for swims at the local pools as well, which is always good because you can't take your phone with you in water, which is great. But yeah, just it's hard to switch off. Muay Thai is great. Love Muay Thai. I'm gonna get back into that.
Me too.
I'm a big Liam Harrison fan. I'm pretty sure you know who he is.
Yeah. He's the man who retires bloody every single week.
Yeah, I know, right? He's either retired or he's flying. But he's a machine.
It's
Yeah.
funny, man. I used to live in Leeds, where he's from. That's where I went to uni.
Okay.
And I thought about maybe I'll start up and I'll go to that gym that he was at, and I just never ended up doing it. And like that's a big regret, because I would have loved to have trained in that gym. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good fighter.
I'd love
Very
to
good.
train with him one day. If I ever got the opportunity to, I would fly to England just to train with him.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see him doing seminars over here, because he has
Yeah.
been.
Yeah, he's been traveling quite. Hopefully, he does come here.
Yeah.
So,
Do you know Jonathan Haggerty as well? Do you know who he is?
dude, that name does sound familiar.
He's a young guy,
He's active, yeah.
Probably
He's up and coming.
active.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's fighting for the bantamweight. He held the bantamweight. He got beat by a guy called Superlek, and then
Yeah.
Superlek got beat by a guy called Nabil Anane. And Nabil Anane is like bantamweight, but he's like 6'5", 6'6".
Thai?
Haggerty's
Is he Thai from Thailand?
Yeah, he's half Thai, half Algerian.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. But he's Haggerty's fighting against him soon. It's a pretty stacked card, man. Like a lot of people watch UFC, not a lot of people watch one championship. And like I love the stand-up game. I appreciate the BJJ and the takedown and the wrestling and stuff, but like I'd much rather watch like 5 rounds of 5 minutes of stand-up. You know what I mean? Striking.
Yeah, there's a lot of action going on. And you know what? It is actually just reminded me of something. I find that in life, especially when you're a business owner, being a business owner tests you. And I feel like you need to put yourself in situations that really test your will and resilience. And I feel like I'm not encouraging people to go and get hit in the head or anything like that, but even just going and getting involved with boxing, kickboxing, and just having a light spar and just getting pushed to the depths and to the limits will really test you as a human. But that lesson, those skills that you learn, you take with, like I've done a bit of boxing as well. You think, but kickboxing, boxing be easy. It's a different ball game. These guys only have 2 hands and they put everything behind every hit, but there's nothing more testing of your resilience than being absolutely gassed, where you literally, people who haven't done it might not relate. You literally cannot move your arm forward. Like you can barely hold it to protect yourself, but you're that fatigued. You are stuffed, but there's something inside you that just goes, I'm not going to give up. And if you can take that and transfer that into, business or whatever you're doing, or even if you work for a company, but you have a specific important role, things are going to get tough. So if you can transfer that, which it is transferable, into your business life, into your career, you'll overcome a lot, because there's a lot of stressful times. Even here, shit hits the fan all the time. A lot of people post, a lot of brokers and finance will post about, this deal got approved in a day and things like that. And look, that does happen, but sometimes it sets an unrealistic expectation, because what people need to realize is a lot of deals these days, especially when you're self-employed, are not simple. There's a lot of things that can happen in the background. A lot of things go wrong where if it runs smoothly, well, it needs to run smoothly. It's our job to make sure it runs smoothly. So we're the ones in the background, copping all the heat, dealing with banks and whatnot to make sure things run smoothly. So yeah, if you can put yourself in situations in life, that's why I think sport's great, because sport will test you no matter what sport it is, competitiveness. If you can put yourself in a situation where you need to overcome something, I think that is a strong life lesson.
Yeah, and it's funny if you are competitive in nature, because like competitive and empathetic, right? Because I play 5-a-side on a Wednesday, and there was this team, and you looked at the score sheet, and they've been battered every week. And I'm well up for it before, like, yes, I'm going to get a hat trick. I'm going to do this. And then we played against them, and about 5 minutes in, I was like, oh fuck, man, I just feel sad. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, there's no, because if you're up against something, you're competing and there's no competition. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, if you're a competitive person, like, you thrive in that competition. It's like, if it's too easy, you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
this isn't right, mate. You know what I mean?
And if some of my nephews are like, oh, I had you on the weekend, or, they play indoor 5-a-side, like, yeah, we won 10-0. I'm like, it's a bit boring. You want some competition.
You want pushing back. You want someone going at you. You know what I mean?
If it's too easy, you don't learn. You don't learn anything.
Yeah.
You might as well go do a training drill. Or
I think, and going back to that, I think if you're in a high intensity, stressful job like what we both do, boxing is a great outlet. I do feel like a lot of people give it a bad rep because it's, it seems violent, it's this and that. And what you find is, especially in like traditional Thai boxing gyms, they're some of the softest people in the world. You know what I mean? They bow to you, and it's like very respectful. They fuck you up if they had to,
Yeah.
but they don't have to because they're smart, mentally disciplined to be like, I know I can do this. You know what I mean?
You know what, you'll find that the quietest ones are usually the deadliest ones.
Hmm.
Like my master, who I train under for Hapkido and other stuff, he's a 5th or 6th degree black belt, but he's a very calm, matured individual. And you'll see that a lot with like the monks who are trained in certain martial arts. They're very calm and very just peaceful people. But they know if things break out, they can contain themselves, which I think is important in business too. I think you have to, that's the other thing too, that I think combat or competitiveness will teach you is when it comes to competitive sports, you'll notice, especially individual sports, you look at some of the best tennis players in the world, like Roger Federer, for example, you look at him, you very rarely saw him lose it. He always, maybe inside he was losing it, but he always seemed to look so calm and collected and like, okay, let's next shot. And I think that's how you need to approach it. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure maybe you're the same. I say that now, and then, something will come up and I'll lose it. But when you take a step back and just go, okay, calm down. There's a problem in front of me. I can't make a decision if I'm all over the place. I need to be calm, maybe step away from it for about 5 minutes if you can, depending on what you're doing, and then come back to it. Okay, what's the solution to this problem? Yeah, going back to what you said, the people who are calm and collected and composed can generally show up when things do get erratic.
I want to touch on something here, right? So burnout is fairly big in the broking industry, right? A lot of, it can happen to anyone. A lot of brokers burn out. You obviously, in what you did previously and what you do now, right? A lot of what you do is about lifestyle changes. When you was in, exercise physiology, sometimes people need to make lifestyle changes, right? And whether that's just getting in the gym and exercising more, strengthening, whatever it is. Same with what you're doing now. It's about people making financial well-being lifestyle changes, right? What I'm leaning into here is, do you think this younger age of brokers, which you're a part of, do you think the mindset is there and it's going to be, they're setting themselves up to, I guess, experience burnout a lot less than some of the older generations, some of the brokers that are coming towards retirement?
Yeah, you know what? I think, this is the thing, like I experienced burnout as an exercise physiologist as well. And in brokering now, I have my days, right? Where I'm like, I have to take a step back. And I think when you're young and you're hungry, depending on what position you're in, there's young ones who don't have much pressure on themselves, but they think because there isn't much pressure, they'll just go hard. And then there's, people maybe in my position where you're married, family coming, you've got a lot more responsibilities. So you push yourself. And I think it's important. And this is another thing that the boys say to me is they'll be like, if they see me, for example, just there's a lot going on, they'll be like, stop, go, go home, take up, or if I'm here too late, if I'm trying to push myself, go home, go to your wife, chill out. You can come back to it tomorrow morning. If it's something that can be left to tomorrow, or just take a step back, come back to it later. I try to kind of step away from my desk, go for a walk if I can, if things are pretty intense. And what I find is if you step away from something, like I've had situations where I've been at the office, I've been trying to really get something done by the end of the day, and I'm just rushing. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to come back to this tomorrow morning. And you come back to it the next day and the problem doesn't seem as big as it was because you're not as cluttered. So I think it's very important, especially for those who are like, I'm going to go hard. And look, don't get me wrong. Like I'll go home some days, have some there, have a break, and then be back on my laptop. But you need to look after yourself, right? Especially when you're in business, especially when you're in businesses, I think you can't pour from an empty cup. And it's kind of funny me saying this because my training's kind of, and I'll openly admit this, my training's kind of taken a back seat, not intentionally, but I'm like, you know what, today I'll train, and then I'll get caught up with stuff. And then next thing you know, my brain is fried. So I'll go home and I might just go for a walk. So I'll still do something. I'll try to move my body some way just to move because it can very quickly creep up on you. And the next thing you know, you haven't trained in 2, 3, 4 days. And for someone like myself who's always been quite active, that's a big thing. If I don't train for 2 days, that's massive for me. So I'm trying to learn and navigate and kind of structure myself a bit better. Because at the moment, me and the boys, even though we help each other out. We're all looking after our own caseloads. So my clients are my clients. If I'm working on a deal, one client's deal, I'm not working on the other deals. I've got to make time for them. So there's a lot happening at one time. So it's just, I think it just comes down to structure and organization. And obviously there comes to the point where you're like, maybe it's time to delegate. It's time to hire somebody. So yeah, it's important to look after yourself 100% because things can derail very fast.
It's a catch-22, right? Because me and you both have very good problems to have in that we're busy, right? Because
Yeah.
if we weren't busy and we were doing what we're doing, that's when shit would be hitting the fan. But at the same time, you got to look after yourself, man. So have I read into this? Are you trying for a baby or there's a baby on the way?
There's one on the way.
Woo! Come on. Do you know what you're having?
Nah, I'm going to keep it a surprise. We'll see.
I could sense that you were one of those guys, to be fair.
Yeah. You know what? I just thought, like, it's the first grandchild like for my parents, but for my wife's, it's their sixth. So like, if we need anything, we've got half the stuff from some of her siblings. And to be honest, I mean, you can correct me on this, but whether it's a boy, whether it's a girl, I feel like they need the same stuff. They need nappies and food. Yeah.
Love.
That's it.
Daddy to make money.
Exactly. That's all they need. So.
Yeah, it's funny. I was saying to mates, I was like, I'd love to have a boy. I want to take him football. I want to do this. I want to do that. And they went, mate, what if you have a boy and he doesn't even want to do any of that? They were like, what difference does it make? And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're so right. And I had a little girl and I could not see myself ever having a boy, I don't think. Well, I could.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I had a girl first, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I always say, whether it's a boy or it's a girl, they're definitely going to learn how to protect themselves, especially if it's a girl. Especially if she's a girl, I definitely want to learn how to protect herself.
Yep.
Bit of martial arts, a bit of boxing. Yeah.
Don't worry, mate. I'm already on it. Like my missus's good friend, she married a Thai guy and they co-own a gym over in Koh Phangan.
Okay.
So she's brought loads of little like Thai little shorts and stuff like that for her. So I'm
That's
like, yeah,
awesome.
that's what I'm going to get her into.
Yeah, for sure. Get them started young.
Started, man. Look, I just want to say, like, you should be really proud of everything you've done, and not just as a broker, but your studies, leaving school, you know, lasered on who you are. Mate, I got a lot of respect for you, and I want to say thank you for sharing this time with me to share everything as well.
Thank you, man. That means a lot. Appreciate kind words, and always appreciate your support from a distance as well.
Yeah, that's what I've said. I'm here, mate. Like, if you're hiring someone offshore and you need some advice, whatever it is,
yeah,
you know that you can message me. You know that you can give me a call.
Of course.
What does the future hold for you? Get back to today's thing.
Yeah, well, that's the first part. But look, I think for me and the guys at the moment, we're in the process of really setting up our system so that we can, onboard more people, because I think we've been in talks to get people on board. We're like, we need a system in place. We need a unified system so it runs smoothly. So obviously for me, with a little one, I want to be able to have a business that runs pretty much on its own. It doesn't really require me as much as it does now. Obviously still be involved, but if I need to take time off or I want to travel with the family, I still want it to run in the background. I would just say setting up a business that, runs sort of somewhat on its own, and just, spending time with family and just supporting the family and enjoying life. And hopefully getting back into training properly as well sometime in the next week or two. Every time I say this is the week, I get smashed with work, which is a good thing. But, as I said before, we've got to find that balance. So.
I wish we could all do a Joseph Daoud and be up at 3 a.m. every day and smashing the gym. And I actually, honestly, I wish I could do it. I wish I could. I try and it just does not work.
I don't know how he does it. Joseph is a machine, dude. Like, I don't know how you do it. Like, I struggle to wake up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. Like, let alone 4. I'm like, maybe when the little one comes, I'll have no choice. So we'll see.
Maybe for a little bit, and then you just go back to, oh, Jesus, could you not just go back to sleep yet?
We'll see what happens. But everyone's different. Some people are morning people. Some people are afternoon people. I even said I might just start doing like a bit of a in between, like come work in the morning and then maybe there's a couple of gyms nearby. They do like a session, sort of split my day up, refresh, come back and then work again in the afternoon/evening, just break up my day. Everyone's different.
6, like what I'm looking forward to getting back into, and it'll be in the new year, is the 6 a.m. Muay Thai classes, because if you tell them you're going to be there, you need to be there. You know what I mean?
So that's the thing. When you do classes or if you have a one-on-one trainer, you have to go. Whereas when if it's just you're like, oh, I'll stay in bed a bit longer, an extra half an hour. Next thing you know, you fall asleep and you're like, oh, I've got to start my day. Bit of accountability.
You don't want to be known as, be known as the guy that says he's coming and doesn't turn up in
exactly.
that thing. You know what I mean? Because you slowly notice, like, they stop putting the one-to-one aspect to it and stop, you know what I mean?
And that's why accountability is good. You know, it's an investment in
Yeah,
yourself as well.
correct. Well, mate, look, again, should be really proud of what you've done, mate. I can't wait to see the business take off. And we'll chat soon, all right?
Thanks, Joe. Same to you, man. Love what you're doing, brother. Keep going, and
Thank
we'll
you.
keep
I
supporting each
try.
other. Now you're doing well.
Cheers, mate. See ya.
You're a legend. Thanks, man.